Everyone, welcome to Sumitup. Today we're going to go over one of the most important things that you need to think about while setting up your business, and that is the business type or entity structure.
So when you're starting your business, there's a bunch of questions you need to ask yourself. So that's what we're going to cover today is what questions do you need to ask? So the number one thing, you don't necessarily need to ask these in any specific order, but one of the questions for sure is how many owners are there going to be? Is it going to be just you? Or is it going to be you and a family member? Or is it going to be you and an unrelated party? Because that can matter on which entity type you pick.
Mm-hmm. So the most common business structures that we see are sole proprietorship, LLC, partnership, S-Corp, and C-Corp. Tad, what's a sole proprietorship and why do I care?
Right. So a sole proprietor is going to be for somebody that's just starting their business. They want to save as much as possible at the beginning. They don't have a ton of income and they're trying to keep things simple. So they don't want another tax return. They don't want to deal with that stuff. So anybody that's starting out and wants some sort of structure but doesn't want to spend a lot, sole proprietor is going to be for them.
Okay. What about an LLC? What's an LLC really?
So an LLC, most of you have probably heard that phrase. LLC stands for Limited Liability Company. It's by far the most popular among small businesses because it provides flexibility. A sole proprietor kind of caps you out. You can only go so far before you need to start doing something different to save on taxes and to introduce complexity. The LLC is nice. It's very simple to set up. It's fairly inexpensive. But the most beneficial thing, in my opinion, in addition to the limited liability side of it, is the opportunity to grow.
Awesome.
I'm all about helping people set something that is going to grow with them instead of putting them into a corner. So that's
awesome.
what an LLC is great for.
So next we have a partnership. Tell us a little bit about a partnership.
So partnership, again, anytime you have more than one person, two people, that's going to be a partnership. But we're going to dive into this a little bit more. We're going to cover in depth more on each of these entities, the pros, the cons, which one you really ought to pursue. But the LLC is something that gets set up and they can either tax themselves if there's more than one as either a partnership or an S corporation. We'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
But partnership, the ones that are most common is if they're going to hold real estate. So if you have real estate or you have assets that are going to appreciate, go up in value, the partnership is going to be one for you. And if you want to make sure that you have flexibility, the partnership is a great option as well.
Okay. Now, an S-Corp. What is the difference between an S-Corp and a partnership or LLC?
Right. So S corporation is one type of tax return. So you're always going to have to file another return for that. The same thing with a partnership. It's also another type of tax return. But the biggest difference is a partnership, again, there's always two. An S corporation can have a single member or it can have multiple members. The partnership is set up, always have two, but it provides opportunity for having specific ways of taking money out of the company. That's really, really common. So if you have more than one partner and one wants to take money out, the other one does not at that time, the partnership's the way to go. An S corporation, if one pulls money out, the other one has to take it out equal to their ownership. So if you have two people, 50-50 owner, if one takes money out, the other one has to take money out too. So that limits you just a little bit on the S corporation.
So what about payroll? Do you have to pay any type of payroll?
Yeah, good question. So partnership, the owners actually cannot pay themselves on a payroll. The S corporation, you actually have to pay yourself a reasonable salary. And of course, as you can imagine, depending on what you're doing, reasonable can mean a lot of different things. But in an S corporation, once you've set that up, you are required to pay the owners a salary.
Awesome. So what about a C-Corp now? When do you use a C-Corp?
Yeah, so most of you, all the big companies, Fortune 500 companies, the ones that are on the stock market, they're all going to be C corporations because an S corporation can only have so many members. The C corporation was designed historically for really, really big companies. That did change a little bit though. A couple of years ago, the IRS made it so there's a flat tax rate. So they pay 21% no matter what, and that was really, really appealing to some of the small taxpayers.
Okay.
Because they didn't want to have to pay what they call double taxation. That's what a C Corp brings. You pay the tax on the profits, and then if you pull money out like a dividend, it's taxed again. And so only the big guys used to do that.
And so now it's not taxed anymore.
So now it's still taxed the same way, but it's taxed at a flat rate.
Okay.
It used to be in the high 30% range. Now it's a flat 21%. It's still really limited. So again, for the ones, if you're trying to figure out what you want to do, most people, if you're small, you're probably going to want to start with either a sole proprietor, an LLC, or a partnership.
And really what you should do is definitely consult a tax advisor or accountant. Make sure that you're in the right entity at the right time.
And make sure you're thinking about not just now. Don't just ask yourself, what am I going to do now and what's going to work now? Make sure that you're setting up something that's going to work for you now and have the opportunity to help grow down the road.
Awesome. Thanks, Tad. So to sum it up, we've gone over some of the common entity types: sole proprietorship, partnership, LLC, S-Corp, and C-Corp. Remember, it's all in the details.
We'll catch you on the future videos.